A shrimp with a punch so powerful it can break glass and cause shock waves in the water. A shark so aggressively hungry it'll eat just about anything. And one of the most venomous creatures in the entire world. These are some of the scariest deep-sea predators caught on camera. Look at this diver being stalked by a tiger shark. The tiger shark is one of the most dangerous deep-sea predators out there. It's known for its aggressiveness and the fact that it'll eat pretty much anything it can catch, from fish to sea turtles to even garbage. They're often called the garbage cans of the sea because of how indiscriminate their eating habits are. Tiger sharks can grow up to 18 feet long, and their jaws are packed with serrated teeth, perfect for slicing through tough materials like turtle shells. They've been known to attack humans, but their bites are usually just curious nibbles. Even so, they're big, they're powerful. If one got it in its head that it wanted to try tearing you apart, it absolutely could. So it's not a good idea to mess with one. In terms of habitat, tiger sharks are found in tropical and subtropical waters, often in deeper spots where there's plenty of food around. Mantis shrimp are absolutely terrifying little creatures, even though they're not that big. These crustaceans have one of the fastest and most powerful strikes in the animal kingdom. Footage of their punches needs to be slowed down in order to truly appreciate. Their limbs are capable of moving at speeds of 50 miles per hour, faster than a bullet leaving a firearm. They can smash open shells, break glass, they can knock fish unconscious or just kill them in an instant. In some cases, their strikes are so powerful they can create shock waves in the water. And it sounds like I'm making this part up, but the punch from a mantis shrimp can even generate light, creating this flash so intense that it can stun smaller prey. So yeah, they don't look all that intimidating. They're small and they're also shrimp, but these are incredibly dangerous hunters. They can take out much larger and stronger animals with their anime level power blows. Lizardfish, as you can probably tell, are not the cutest looking animal. They're known for having a pretty nightmarish predatory appearance with sharp teeth and eerie lizard-like faces. These creatures are built for hunting in the deep, dark waters where there's barely any light and food can be tough to find. Lizardfish are experts at lurking on the ocean floor, blending in so well that unsuspecting fish don't usually see them coming. With their long, sharp teeth, they're great at grabbing and holding on to any prey that gets too close. They can grow up to around 3 feet long, and while sure they may not be the largest predators, their aggressiveness and lightning-fast attacks makes them pretty threatening. They're also known for their viciousness, tearing into their prey with a speed that's hard to see in real time. Look at this huge hammerhead swing right up to a beach. Lucky no one was in the water when this guy showed up. Hammerhead sharks might look a little strange with their wide T-shaped heads, but make no mistake, they're incredibly efficient predators. That bizarre head shape they have gives them a full 360-degree view of their surroundings, and you probably don't need me to tell you that that's a big advantage. If you're anywhere near one of these things, they most likely see you. Hammerheads usually hunt in deeper waters, where they can use their enhanced vision to locate stingrays and other bottom-dwelling creatures. Their heads are also loaded with sensors that help them detect electric fields made by prey in the water. So they can detect and spot prey very efficiently, but we haven't even talked about their other assets yet: size, strength, and teeth. Some species like the great hammerhead can grow over 20 feet long, and their powerful jaws are capable of crushing bones and tearing through tough hide. Sperm whales are the giants of the deep ocean, and while they're not necessarily a threat to humans, they are one of the most dangerous predators to other deep-sea creatures. First of all, they're the largest toothed predators on Earth. They can grow up to 60 feet long. They mostly hunt squid, and that includes giant and colossal squid. Using echolocation, sperm whales can hunt prey in total darkness, deep beneath the waves. They can dive to depths of over 3,000 feet and stay submerged for over an hour, making them the ultimate deep-sea hunters. I mentioned that they hunt giant squid. Well, giant squid and sperm whales are pretty much arch enemies, constantly at war. They have fierce battles with squid, using their massive jaws and powerful teeth to tear them apart. But it's not like the giant squids don't fight back. They'll try to overwhelm the whales by wrapping their tentacles around them. I think the whales usually get the upper hand though. Humans rarely interact with sperm whales in the wild, but they're dangerous to anything they consider food. Their strength and intelligence makes them one of the most terrifying predators in the ocean, capable of overpowering almost anything in their path. The anglerfish. These are those super deep sea fish with the bioluminescent lures that hang in front of their mouths. In the Mariana Trench, various species of anglerfish have been found, and they're all pretty unsettling to look at. One of the strangest parts about certain species of anglerfish, though, is how they mate. Males are significantly smaller than females, and often have a completely different role in the reproductive process. When a male finds a female, he latches onto her body and eventually fuses with her, becoming this permanent reproductive partner. This allows the female to have a readily available mate, and this is very important because encounters with other anglerfish are rare. The deep sea environment they live in is just so sparse, so they gotta take what they can get. But let's talk about those jaws. They're huge, allowing them to consume prey much larger than themselves. Their jaws can also extend, and their stomachs can stretch, allowing them to engulf prey whole. And to top it off, anglerfish are known as ambush predators. Many of them are dark, helping them blend into the abyss and avoid being seen by prey and other predators. Next up, we have the vampire squid. These are really cool looking creatures. I think they may be my favorite type of squid, even though they're not actually squids. I'll get to that a bit later though. Anyway, pretty clear how these things got their name. It looks like it's wearing your classic Halloween-y vampire type cape. Batman squid would have also been a good nickname for these things. Like I said, despite their name, these things are actually not true squids. They're more closely related to octopus, and they belong to a distinct order of cephalopods called Vampiromorphidae, and they're the only living species found in this group. All the other creatures that were once in it are now extinct. The vampire squid has a gelatinous body covered in photophores, which can emit bioluminescent light. It also has webbing between its arms, which creates that kind of cloak-like appearance. This allows the squid to control its buoyancy. The coolest thing about vampire squids, though, are their defense mechanisms. They can turn themselves inside out, covering their bodies with spines, and this helps frighten off predators. Next on the list is the Fangtooth fish. You can clearly see how this thing got its name. This thing is horrifying. It's small, only reaching about 6 inches, but it has that fearsome set of jaws and a pair of dead white eyes, making for a pretty intimidating little creature. I'm sure it still wouldn't be fun being bit by one of these things. They're almost like zombie fish a little bit, the way their eyes look. Plus, those teeth are so large that the fangtooth can't actually close its mouth completely. They're disproportionately large compared to their body. Their dark coloration, usually a deep brown or black, allows them to blend into the darkness of the deep sea as well, making it easier, of course, for them to ambush their prey. As scary as they look, though, they're mostly feeding on smaller fish and zooplankton. An interesting thing about the fangtooth are their unique swim bladders. Unlike many fish which rely on their swim bladders for buoyancy, fangtooths have a reduced swim bladder, which helps them remain stable in the extreme pressures of the deep sea. This next one is actually pretty cool. Plastic-eating microbes. There are some really strange microbes living deep within the trench. Scientists have found some microbes able to survive deep in an environment with intense pressure and just pitch black darkness. One pretty remarkable discovery among these mysterious microbes is a type that actually has the ability to consume plastic. As wild as this is, it's actually a good thing because plastic pollution has become a pretty big environmental concern. Finding microbes that can break down plastic is kind of a good sign. It could potentially assist in reducing plastic waste in the ocean. Mariana Trench, reaching depths of over 36,000 feet, makes for pretty extreme challenges for life. The pressure at those depths is intense, equivalent to about 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. This goes to show how adaptable life can be in the most extreme environments. Finally, though, we have the deep sea dragonfish. This is a group of bioluminescent fish that lurk deep in the Mariana Trench, and what a horrifying looking creature it is. This thing looks like, you know that hallway monster in Hellraiser that runs along the wall? Reminds me of that. These guys have long fang-like teeth and elongated bodies, incredibly menacing, sort of like a piranha and a serpent fused together. These ones are also, again, bioluminescent, producing light through chemical reactions in their bodies. They use this bioluminescence not just to navigate the darkness of the depths, but to lure prey and communicate with each other.
The light can be emitted from various parts of their bodies, helping them to camouflage against the faint light from above, making it easier to surprise unsuspecting fish. They also have an excellent sense of smell, which allows them to detect food from a distance. Once they identify their prey, they strike quickly, using their sharp teeth to capture and consume. The Barreleye fish is a very unique but somewhat eerie looking creature found in the Mariana Trench. Its nickname is the spookfish, and you can probably see why. At first glance, it kind of looks like its eyes are on the front, but they aren't. It has a transparent head, and through this transparent head you can see this pair of glowing orbs. Those are actually its eyes. This may be one of the most unique looking animals I've ever seen, certainly the strangest looking fish. The Barreleye is a deep sea dweller living in the dark depths where sunlight barely reaches, like the Mariana Trench, and they have see-through heads. Inside their heads are big tubular eyes that point upward, not something you see every day. If that's not weird enough though, those eyes can actually rotate. So if the Barreleye fish wants to check something out above it, it can swivel its eyes up. They usually do this to catch prey drifting down from above. Now, as for the rest of their body, it's pretty streamlined. They're not exactly speed demons, but they've got a sleek design for life in the deep sea. These fish were first discovered in 1939, but they were hard to study because they live so deep under the water, their bodies would actually collapse because of the change in pressure when they were brought up to the surface. But now that we have remotely controlled deep sea vehicles, they've become a lot easier to observe. There are a lot of large animals lurking in the Mariana Trench, and this is because of a phenomenon known as abyssal gigantism. This is where creatures living way down in the deep sea, like the Mariana Trench, grow way bigger than their counterparts up near the surface. One example is the giant amphipods that have been discovered down there. If you don't know what amphipods are, they look kind of shrimp-like, but these giant ones can hit a whopping 13 inches in length, which is massive compared to the shallower water versions. And some other deep sea dwellers down in the trenches, like certain types of jellyfish and squid, also follow this trend of growing way larger than their counterparts near the surface. As to why creatures can get so big in the trench, some theories are that it's because of the extreme conditions down there. The pressure at the bottom of the ocean is insane, and the cold and dark environment might be making the creatures evolve to become giants, a way of adapting to the tough life in the deep sea by becoming supersized. The telescope octopus is a ghostly looking animal. It's pretty much entirely translucent, aside from its eyes, which are strangely tubular. They protrude out of its body almost like telescopes. This allows for wider peripheral vision so it can avoid predators and locate prey. Even cooler though, the telescope octopus has this nifty trick where it can almost disappear. If it feels threatened or just wants to be sneaky, it can wrap its arms around its body, turning it into this smooth, gelatinous blob type thing, blending into the dark background of the deep sea. Even though they have this ghostly translucent look where you can see the insides of their heads, there's something beautiful about these creatures and the way they just peacefully glide through the water. It's mesmerizing. Next we have the Oceanic, which is a pretty cool creature but kinda nasty at the same time. On top of that, they look like something from another planet. They have a few nicknames: bone worms, zombie worms, and bone-eating worms. Pretty ominous by the sounds of it, but these guys are basically underwater recyclers. These worms have adapted to bore into the skeletons of dead animals, particularly whale carcasses, to access the fatty lipids locked inside. They were first discovered at a depth of 10,000 feet. They've evolved to thrive in the extreme conditions of the sea floor. Their main source of food is the remains of dead whales and other animal carcasses that sink to the ocean floor. The success of zombie worms relies on teamwork, with the females taking on the majority of tasks. Using acidic secretions, they drill into the bones of dead animals, freeing up all those valuable lipids. This involves a symbiotic relationship with bacteria as well that aid in the digestion and processing of these released lipids. This allows the zombie worms to make a living in the deep sea environment where food sources are pretty scarce. Next on the list we have the goblin shark. These have to be the most horrific looking sharks in existence, right? I mean, goblin sharks, it's really just a perfect name for them. Just look at that. I'm like, yeah, that's a water goblin. They have elongated, flattened snouts, almost like they have swords sticking out of their faces. They have a pinkish white coloration, and their skin is actually kind of translucent. You can almost see their blood vessels underneath. Combine this with their long, sharp teeth that just jut out at odd angles, and you've got a face that only their mother could love, and even that's a bit of a stretch. Goblin sharks also have the ability to thrust their jaws forward to snatch their prey, almost like the xenomorph in Alien. Take a look at this. Hafgufa is a creature that has its roots in Norse mythology, described as a giant sea monster, often said to be the size of a whole island, lurking in the waters of the North Atlantic. Some stories depict it as a whale-like creature, others say it's a type of sea serpent. It's often associated with the kraken, and some believe they could be the same creature, just with different interpretations. According to the sagas, Hafgufa is so large that its movements could stir up dangerously huge waves, making it a threat to sailors in the region. In fact, it was said that it could swallow entire ships whole with just one gulp. The name Hafgufa is believed to come from Old Norse, meaning sea gulp, which of course fits perfectly with the idea of this creature swallowing anything in its path. Organism 46b is a mysterious creature that became famous after being allegedly discovered in Antarctica, described as a massive, shape-shifting octopus-type being, said to be able to manipulate its surroundings with its tentacles. Some reports even claim that it can hypnotize its prey, paralyzing them with this strange mind-controlling ability. The creature was supposedly discovered by a Russian scientific expedition in 2004. They were investigating the icy waters beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. According to the tale, the team encountered this creature in a submerged lake, with the monster being able to grow to over 30 feet long. The creature is said to have the ability to mimic other creatures, allowing it to blend into its environment or appear as a completely different organism to fool predators or prey. The whole thing got attention after an expedition member supposedly shared the tale online, but there's still no solid proof. It's become something of a Russian government cover-up conspiracy. The Ningen is one of the most bizarre creatures in modern cryptozoology. Allegedly, it lives in the icy waters around Antarctica. Most reported sightings come from Japanese sailors. The Ningen is described as a humanoid sea creature with this pale white body that some say resembles a giant twisted version of a human. That's what makes this thing so creepy. The creature is said to be massive, often reported to be around 20 to 30 meters long or 65 to 98 feet, with a head, arms, and legs, but no real distinct facial features. The first report came about in the early 2000s when Japanese fishermen and crew members of research ships started talking about sightings of this bizarre thing. Some say they've seen it swimming near the ship or breaching the surface like a whale. What makes the Ningen so creepy isn't just its size or its appearance, but the way it seems to avoid any form of human contact, keeping its distance and vanishing as quickly as it appears. The Kraken is one of the most infamous sea monsters in folklore, often depicted as this giant octopus or squid type thing that terrorizes sailors by dragging entire ships under the sea. The legend dates back to the 18th century, with stories of a colossal creature lurking off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. Like with many legendary creatures, there are different descriptions, but it's usually said to be so massive that its tentacles can reach out and capsize ships with a single swipe. Some sailors even reported seeing the Kraken's huge arms rise above the surface like a massive wall, causing a storm of panic before the ship was dragged into the deep. The Kraken seems about as outlandish as it gets, but here's the thing. It may not actually be pure fiction. Some think that what these sailors were describing may have actually been giant squids, which can grow to over 40 feet long. The Leviathan. Pretty much the ultimate sea monster, one that's haunted our collective imagination for centuries, even if we don't know it. It comes from ancient texts, most famously the Bible, where it's depicted as this fearsome sea serpent, which has really become the archetype for all monstrous sea creatures. The description varies depending on who's telling the story, but it's often depicted as this enormous dragon-like beast with scales tough enough to withstand the toughest of weapons. Some tales paint it as a creature of chaos, one that could swallow ships whole or cause storms to wreck entire fleets. The name Leviathan comes from the Hebrew Bible, where it's described as an ancient creature of the deep, sometimes associated with destruction and darkness. Over the centuries, it's been linked to the sea itself, a symbol of the unknown and the powerful forces of nature that sailors feared most. Japanese sailors had plenty to worry about when they set out to sea: storms, shipwrecks, the pure vastness of the unknown, but nothing unsettled them quite like the umibozu, said to be this massive, shadowy entity that would rise up from the ocean on calm nights, a towering black shape with no real features other than its glowing white eyes. Not the type of tentacled or serpentine sea creature you usually picture, and it didn't act like one either. It wouldn't attack right away. Instead, it would demand a barrel from the crew, and if they gave it one, it would use it to then scoop water into their ship until they sank. If they refused, well, things didn't end much better. It's kind of a lose-lose situation. No one really knows where the legend comes from originally, but some say that umibozu is the ghost of a drowned monk, cursed to haunt the sea forever. Others think it's more of a warning, a way to explain how fast things can turn deadly out in the open water. In some versions, it only shows up when someone on board has angered the gods, meaning if you saw one, your fate was already sealed. The Lusca is a creature that haunts the waters off the Caribbean. Once again, this thing probably doesn't look like anything you're imagining. It's said to be half shark, half octopus. Some even describe it having 3 sharks' heads, so a pretty bizarre looking monster and equally as terrifying. It lurks in the dark depths of underwater caves, ready to drag unsuspecting swimmers or boats down into the water. Local fishermen and sailors who spent too much time on the water often share these chilling stories about close encounters with it. Many sightings of the Lusca have been reported near the blue holes of Andros Island in the Bahamas. One of the most famous incidents happened on January 18th of 2011, when what appeared to be the body of this giant octopus washed up on Grand Bahama Island. Witnesses said that the remains looked like just a part of the creature's head and mouth, and the rest of the body missing. Based on what they saw though, local fishermen who were familiar with octopus anatomy estimated that this creature, if intact, would have measured between 20 and 30 feet long when alive. The description of this next creature is pretty strange, but it actually has roots in real-life reports. It's called Steller's sea ape. It was first described by Georg Wilhelm Steller, a German naturalist who came across it during an expedition to the Bering Sea in the 18th century. According to Steller, the creature was seen in the waters near the Commander Islands, a remote part of Russia. What makes it so strange? Well, it was described as this mix between a primate and a seal, an ape-like creature with the body of a seal, complete with dark fur, a wide mouth, and a flat nose. Some reports say it had a tail like a seal's, but with the arms of a monkey even. I told you this one was going to be strange. The sea ape was said to have been spotted in the wild swimming and occasionally popping its head out of the water. There's a theory that it could have been a type of extinct or undiscovered sea mammal, a creature that went extinct before scientists could get a proper chance to identify it. Trunco is another weird one. It's the nickname given to an animal reportedly seen off the coast of Margate, South Africa, on October 25th, 1924. The creature was first noticed battling 2 killer whales, which allegedly fought with it for about 3 hours. Witnesses claim the strange creature used its tail to fend off the whales and even managed to lift itself out of the water by 20 feet at one point. After the battle, the creature's carcass washed ashore on Margate Beach, where it remained for 10 days. The animal was said to be around 47 feet long, 10 feet wide and 5 feet high. It had a trunk about 5 feet long and 14 inches in diameter, and a tail that measured about 10 feet. One of the most unusual features was its snowy white fur, which was about 8 inches long. Interestingly, the trunk was also attached directly to the torso with no head visible. This led British cryptozoologist Carl Schuker to dub the creature Trunco, in his 1996 book, The Unexplained. Ogopogo is the mysterious creature said to live in Lake Okanagan, British Columbia. Described as a serpent-like monster with a long, undulating body, the creature has been part of local folklore for centuries. Indigenous tribes around the lake have long spoken of a water monster said to control the waters, creating waves and whirlpools to drag people under. The first European sighting was recorded in 1872, but the legend really gained traction in the 1920s. Since then, there have been numerous reports with witnesses claiming to see this large creature with humps rising out of the water, sometimes with this horse-like head and reptilian features. Some skeptics argue that Ogopogo is just a misidentified sturgeon or a floating log, but the fact is, sightings just continue to this day. Could it be some prehistoric survivor, a remnant of creatures like the plesiosaur or a giant eel?
In our number 5 spot today, we have Captain George Drever's sea serpent. In 1875, Captain George Drever of the bark Pauline found himself at the center of one of the most gripping sea monster tales ever recorded. On July 8th, while navigating the vast expanse of the South Atlantic, Captain Drever and his crew witnessed an extraordinary battle unfolding on the ocean's surface. A colossal creature with a long, eel-like body stretching about 30 feet or 9 meters, and a large head topped with 2 dorsal fins was entwined around a massive whale. The mysterious beast coiled itself tightly as the whale thrashed violently, sending waves crashing and hearts racing aboard the Pauline. The sheer intensity of the struggle left the crew in awe, and Captain Drever didn't let the moment slip into obscurity. He penned a detailed report and even sketched the creature, with his account later published in the Zoologist Journal. While modern interpretations suggest they might have just witnessed a giant squid engaging the whale, misidentified due to the distance and the tumultuous conditions, the vividness of Drever's description keeps the debate alive. Was it a misunderstood encounter or a genuine sea serpent? Either way, this remarkable incident adds a thrilling chapter to the lore of unbelievable sea monsters. In our number 4 spot today, we have the USS Stein incident. In 1978, the USS Stein, a Knox-class frigate of the US Navy, was cruising through the Pacific Ocean when something extraordinary happened. The ship's sonar system began malfunctioning, and when the crew investigated, they found the sonar dome, the protective cover beneath the ship, had been seriously damaged. Technicians were baffled to discover the dome was covered in long, sharp scratches with hooked, claw-like structures embedded in the rubber coating. These weren't marks from rocks or man-made objects. They seemed almost alive. Experts speculated that a giant squid, possibly a species larger than any previously recorded, had attacked the sonar dome, perhaps mistaking it for a rival or potential prey. This incident provided some of the most compelling physical evidence of encounters with massive, rarely seen marine creatures, and suggested that giant squids might be far more aggressive than anyone had thought. Could the depths of the ocean be hiding creatures even more mysterious and colossal than we have ever imagined? In our number 3 spot today, we have the Alecton sea serpent. In 1861, the crew of the French naval ship Alecton experienced something straight out of a sailor's legend. While navigating the waters off the coast of Tenerife in the Canary Islands, they spotted a massive creature surfacing nearby. It looked like a giant squid, estimated to be about 25 feet or 7.6 meters long, a beast many thought only existed in myths. The sailors, filled with a mix of fear and excitement, sprang into action. They hurled harpoons and opened fire, determined to capture this elusive titan of the deep. Despite their efforts, the creature slipped away, disappearing beneath the waves and leaving them empty-handed but forever changed. The captain didn't let the encounter fade into obscurity. He submitted a detailed report to the French Academy of Sciences. The incident became one of the first recorded encounters with a giant squid, helping to shift scientific opinion towards accepting that these legendary creatures were in fact very real. In In our number 2 spot today, we have the HMS Herald and the sea serpent. In 1857, the crew of the HMS Herald was charting the waters of the North Pacific near the Aleutian Islands when they experienced something that would make even the most seasoned sailor's heart skip a beat. Under the command of Captain Henry Mangles Denham, officers and crew, including the ship's naturalist, Berthold Seaman, they spotted an enormous sea creature breaking the surface of the calm, glassy water. This wasn't a mere glimpse. Conditions were perfect for observation. The creature was described as a gigantic serpent with a head resembling an oversized sea lion, complete with large, expressive eyes that seemed to study the ship just as intently as it was being watched. Its body stretched an estimated 60 feet or 18 meters long, undulating through the water with incredible speed and agility. At one point, it raised its head several feet above the waves, giving the uncanny impression of curiosity. The sighting was meticulously recorded in the ship's log and later detailed in Seaman's published works, adding a hefty dose of credibility to their account. This extraordinary encounter didn't just add another tale to sea serpent lore, it spurred genuine interest in marine exploration and the study of cryptozoology. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the St. Augustine monster. In 1896, the peaceful sands of St. Augustine Beach in Florida became the stage for a maritime mystery that would captivate the nation. 2 young boys, Herbert Coles and Dunham Corbett, came across a massive carcass washed ashore, a discovery that was anything but ordinary. This enormous, unidentified mass stretched about 18 feet or 5.5 meters long and weighed an estimated 5 tons. It had a rubbery, fibrous texture and seemed to sport multiple arms or tentacles, leading excited locals to dub it the giant octopus. Intrigued, Dr. DeWitt Webb, founder of the St. Augustine Historical Society and Institute of Science, examined the bizarre find. He took samples and sent them off to the Smithsonian Institution, where initial examinations by Professor Addison Emery Verrill suggested it could be the remains of a giant squid or octopus. The possibility of a real-life sea monster set imaginations ablaze. However, skepticism grew over time due to the lack of definitive anatomical features. In 1971 and again in 1995, advanced analyses revealed that the mysterious carcass was likely decomposed whale blubber, specifically from a sperm whale. Despite the scientific explanation, the St. Augustine monster became one of the most famous globster cases, a term for unidentified organic masses that wash up on shores. This incident not only fueled public fascination with sea monsters, but also highlighted how the ocean's secrets can blur the line between myth and reality. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the U-28 creature. During World War I, on a day that defied all logic, the German submarine U-28 sank the British steamer SS Iberian off the coast of Ireland. As the crew watched the ship disappear beneath the waves, an underwater explosion suddenly blasted a colossal creature into the air. This wasn't a figment of weary sailors' imaginations. The creature resembled a giant crocodile about 60 feet long, complete with 4 limbs and a long, pointed tail. For a fleeting 10 to 15 seconds, the stunned crew stood in awe as this marine behemoth arced above the sea before vanishing into the depths. The captain's account, published years later in 1935, sparked controversy due to the lack of corroborating evidence and the decades-long silence. But whether myth or reality, his story adds a thrilling chapter to the tales of unbelievable sea monsters that sailors swore were real. Could the oceans still hide such mysteries? In our number 9 spot today, we have the Gloucester sea serpent. Back in the summer of 1817, in the quiet town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, it was buzzing with tales that would make any sailor's hair stand on end. Hundreds of fishermen, sailors, and townsfolk claimed they saw a massive sea serpent slithering through the harbor's waters. This wasn't just a fish story. The creature was said to be over 100 feet long, sporting a series of humps and a snake snake-like head that looked oddly like a mix between a turtle and a horse, which I'm not really sure what that would look like. It moved with a graceful yet eerie serpentine motion and was even spotted coiled up at times. The excitement and fear were so real that the Linnean Society of New England jumped in, forming a committee to get to the bottom of it. They collected eyewitness accounts and even examined what they thought was a baby sea serpent, which unfortunately just turned out to be a deformed black snake. Despite the setback, the Gloucester sea serpent became one of the most well-documented sea monster sightings in American history. So, were all of these folks just seeing things, or was there really something colossal lurking beneath the waves? In our number 8 spot today, we have the HMS Plumper Sea Serpent. In 1857, the crew of the HMS Plumper, led by Captain George Henry Richards, had an encounter that would etch itself into maritime legend. While charting the waters off Vancouver Island, British Columbia, sailors spotted something extraordinary slicing through the waves. It was an enormous creature, estimated to be a staggering 100 feet long, with a head resembling a dog's and large, unsettling eyes that seemed to observe them just as keenly. Humps rose along its massive back as it moved swiftly against the current, defying everything they knew about sea creatures. The sight was so compelling that Captain Richards documented it in his official logs, and local newspapers quickly picked up the story. This wasn't just sailors' lore whispered over grog, it was a well-recorded event that added a thrilling chapter to sea serpent tales along the Pacific Northwest coast. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Valhalla Sea Serpent. In 1905, while sailing off the coast of Brazil aboard the yacht Valhalla, naturalists Edmund Meade Waldo and Michael J. Nicol experienced a moment that felt like stepping into a living legend. They spotted an unusual creature cutting through the water. A large fin rose about 6 feet above the waves, and atop that, a long neck extended another 8 feet into the air. The animal moved steadily, its mysterious form captivating the two men as it glided silently before disappearing after a few minutes. What makes this sighting particularly compelling is who these observers were. Both Meade Waldo and Nicol were respected fellows of the Zoological Society of London. Their detailed account was published in the Proceedings of the Zoological Society of London, igniting widespread discussions about the unknown marvels lurking beneath the ocean's surface. Could this have been a real-life sea serpent? A creature sailors had whispered about for centuries? In our number 6 spot today, we have the Monongahela Sea Serpent. In 1852, the American clipper ship Monongahela, under the command of Captain John Meny, became the center of one of the most astonishing sea tales ever recounted. While sailing through the remote stretches of the South Pacific, the crew reportedly harpooned and killed an enormous sea serpent. This wasn't just any sea creature, the beast was said to be over 100 feet long, with a head resembling an alligator and a body cloaked in glistening scales. The sailors managed to secure the massive carcass alongside their ship, likely imagining the sensation it would cause back home. But destiny took a dramatic twist. Before they could reach port, a fierce storm rolled in, and with it, their colossal catch was swept back into the abyss. News of their incredible encounter hit the newspapers, stirring up a mix of excitement and doubt. Lacking any physical proof, many people questioned the veracity of their story, suggesting it might have been an oversized sea snake or perhaps just an exaggerated fisherman's yarn. Nonetheless, the tale of the sea serpent remains one of the most intriguing accounts of unbelievable sea monsters that old sailors claimed were real. Who knows? Maybe the ocean still guards secrets that are yet to surface.
The deep sea cusk eel is a long, thin, snake-like fish that lives in the deep, dark parts of the ocean, usually between 3,280 and 9,840 feet. With its eel-like body, it looks more like a giant worm than your typical fish, and it's got small fins that don't seem to serve much purpose. These fish don't swim around much. Instead, they tend to sort of crawl along the ocean floor, using their long bodies to slither through the mud and sand in search of food. The cusk eel is what you'd call an opportunistic feeder. It doesn't hunt actively, but will scavenge
for whatever it can find, including dead animals or leftover bits of prey from other predators. They can survive in extreme conditions, and by that I mean they can go for long periods without food. This is important because food sources in the deep ocean are scarce, so the cusk eel's ability to go without eating for a while is key to its survival, especially because it doesn't really hunt. A hydrothermal vent worm is a remarkable creature found around hydrothermal vents, which are underwater geysers that release superheated mineral-rich water from the Earth's crusts. These vents are one of the most extreme environments on the planet, with temperatures that can soar above 350 degrees Fahrenheit or about 175 degrees Celsius. And the hydrothermal vent worm just loves this environment. What's truly fascinating about these worms is that they don't have mouths or digestive systems, meaning they don't eat food the way most animals do. Instead, they rely on bacteria that live inside their bodies. These bacteria consume the chemicals spewed by the vents, like hydrogen sulfide, and then convert them into energy through a process called chemosynthesis. This allows the worm to survive without eating anything in the traditional sense anyway. The worms themselves are long, bright red tubes that stick out of the ocean floor, often clustered around the vents. The red coloration is thanks to hemoglobin, which helps them transport oxygen in the low oxygen waters around the vents. Hydrothermal vent worms are just a perfect example of how life can adapt to some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. The bioluminescent jellyfish is one of the most well-known creatures of the deep sea, and it's easy to see why. Just look at them. This jellyfish has a protein called GFB, green fluorescent protein inside its body that allows it to emit a glow, often described as an eerie or ghostly light. It uses bioluminescence in a variety of ways. It can attract prey, communicate with other jellyfish, and confuse predators. See, the glow can be used to disorient creatures that might otherwise try to eat it, allowing the jellyfish to then escape. GFP has been so fascinating to scientists that it's now used a lot in research. It's helped develop a number of scientific tools, from tracing proteins in other organisms to improving medical imaging. Now, while this jellyfish isn't dangerous to humans, its glow in the dark depths of the ocean is nothing short of mesmerizing, and its slow, graceful movements combined with that creates this kind of surreal, haunting image, making it one of the most iconic deep-sea creatures in the world. Lanternfish are small deep-sea fish. They're some of the most abundant animals in the deep ocean. Found in the midnight zone, they can grow up to about 20 centimeters long, which of course isn't all that impressive, but it's their glowing bioluminescent bodies that make them look so darn cool. Now, this may seem like a pretty dumb ability for such a small, defenseless creature to have in the deep, dark depths of the ocean, but the bioluminescence is actually used for camouflage, helping them blend into the faint light from the surface when viewed from below. Makes it harder for predators to spot them. It's also a way for them to communicate or attract mates. Lanternfish are an important part of the food chain. They feed on plankton, and they're also a food source for a lot of larger predators. They've adapted to life in total darkness, with big eyes to help them detect the slightest bit of light. So sure, they're small and pretty fragile looking, but they're one of the most successful species in the midnight zone, found in large numbers across the globe. They may not be as frightening as some of the other creatures lurking in the depths, but their ability to survive in total darkness and extreme pressure is pretty impressive. Sloane's viperfish is a predatory fish that lives in the depths of the ocean, often found at depths between 500 and 2,000 meters or 1,600 to 6,500 feet. It has long, needle-like teeth that are so large they don't even fit in its mouth, when it's closed anyway. That jaw is capable of stretching to accommodate those oversized teeth, which it uses to catch and hold on to its prey before swallowing them whole. The viperfish also has bioluminescence, with glowing photophores along its body that help it to attract its prey. Those needle-like teeth paired with those glowing body make it one of the most fearsome looking creatures in the midnight zone. But although they look frightening, they're also a relatively small fish, usually only around 30 centimeters long. The Yeti crab was first discovered in 2005 in the South Pacific Ocean, deep around hydrothermal vents near New Zealand. What makes it so strange is that its claws are covered in a sort sort of fuzzy hair, but it's not actually hair, it's bacteria. Scientists think the bacteria might help process the sulfur in the water, which is an important nutrient for the crab, but it's hard to say for sure. The fact that they survive in one of the harshest ecosystems known to science is pretty cool though. The crab's habitat is one of the most extreme environments on Earth, with scalding temperatures, high pressure, but the Yeti crab thrives in it, and it kind of looks like an animal that fits right at home in an environment like this. It's pale and ghostly with spindly legs, which gives it a sort of haunting look, and it's not hard to see how it gets its name, of course. The strange fuzzy appearance and the white color makes it sort of look like the mythical furry Himalayan Yeti. The deep sea spider crab lives at depths where sunlight never reaches, and thank God for that, because just look at this thing. These are slow-moving scavengers with long legs that can stretch over 3 feet, and while that's not exactly giant by deep sea standards, it's pretty big for something as freaky looking as this. Its long limbs make it look otherworldly, and it kinda does live in another world. They're usually found on the seafloor scavenging for dead animals or whatever else they can find. What really sets these guys apart from the other deep sea crabs is those legs, which are disproportionately long compared to the rest of their body, which you probably don't need me to tell you. Their body looks about the size of a large hamburger, but their legs are massive. They look like they belong to a completely different animal. It's hard to tell if these long legs are for efficiency and getting around, or if they just look that way because of the extreme pressure and low food availability this deep down. It just makes their bodies all weird. I don't know. These things aren't really aggressive, but they definitely look freaky. Thankfully, the vampire squid doesn't suck BLOOD, but it's certainly got a name that brings up some pretty creepy images. It's a small cephalopod that lives in the oxygen-deprived waters of the deep ocean, about 250 to 2,500 feet down. The vampire squid gets its name from its dark, velvety body and red eyes, which make it look like, well, a vampire squid. They look kinda intimidating, but they're not as scary as they seem. It doesn't actively hunt for other animals. Instead, it survives by feeding on plankton and marine detritus, which is the decaying organic material like dead plants and animals that sink down to the ocean floor. One of the most interesting things about it is that, unlike other squid species, it doesn't expel ink as a defense mechanism. Instead, it releases this bioluminescent mucus to confuse predators. The deep sea hatchetfish is a small, flat fish that lives deep down in the ocean, around 200 to 1,000 meters or 650 to 3,280 feet down. Its body is laterally compressed and shaped like a hatchet, which is of course where it gets its name. The body shape, combined with the fact that it's bioluminescent, helps it blend in with the faint light from above. Hatchetfish have large eyes designed to capture even the smallest amount of light from above, and they use their glowing undersides to make themselves harder to spot from below. The hatchetfish is another one of those creatures that on its own isn't that terrifying. They're very small, they pose zero threat to humans, but they have a kind of unsettling appearance. It's something about their downturned mouths and their semi-translucent looking bodies. They look a bit like tormented ghosts. And in its natural habitat, it's a master of staying out of sight while lurking in the depths. It's just a really cool creature. The black dragonfish is an almost mythical looking deep sea predator, or like something that would pop out of your chest in the far reaches of space. It has long, sharp teeth, a bioluminescent barbell hanging from its chin, and this sleek black body designed to blend into the darkness of the sea. These things just look mean. Found at depths of about 200 to 2,000 meters or 650 to 6,050 feet, it's a vicious hunter that uses its glowing barbell to lure in prey. They're ambush predators, taking advantage of the pitch black environment to surprise their victims. Yes, the glowing orb is very noticeable, but the stupid fish don't notice the horrific monster attached to it. And the black dragonfish doesn't just look scary, its teeth are sharp and curved backward, making it easier to trap prey once they're close enough.
Number
5. The slender snipe eel. The slender snipe eel, one of the most compact deep-sea critters, can grow to a minimum length of 4 feet, but weighs no more than 6 or 7 ounces. It has a bird-like beak with curving tips covered with tiny hooked teeth, which they use to sweep through the water to catch shrimp and other crustaceans. It has a lifespan of 10 years and has more vertebrae in its backbone than any other animal, which is around 750. However, its anus has moved forward during its evolution, and it's now located on the throat, so that's nice. Their reproduction is done by spawning, which is when a female lays eggs and the males lay their sperm into the water at the same time. Now, the slender snipe eel only spawns once in their lifetime, as they just die after spawning. Now, it's difficult for scientists to research these organisms because of the extreme environment they inhabit, but hopefully one day we'll get more information on that. Number 4. Goblin shark. The goblin shark is a rare species of deep-sea shark. Sometimes called a living fossil, they are a part of a lineage of sharks that are some 125 million years old. The pink-skinned animal has a distinctive profile with an elongated flat snout and highly protrusible jaws containing prominent nail-like teeth. It is usually between 10 and 13 feet long when mature, though it can grow considerably larger because there was once one captured in 2000 that is thought to have been measured 20 feet. With 50 teeth in their mouths, those gruesome creatures command attention, and honestly not really for the right reasons. Interestingly, female goblin sharks are larger in adulthood than the male species. Now, despite their size, some researchers believe that these sharks could also dive the depths up to 4,270 feet for short periods of time. Number 3. Ozdax. Ozdax is Latin for bone eater, and these animals are also known as zombie worms. The name alludes to how these worms bore into the bones of whale carcasses to reach enclosed lipids on which they rely for substance. With no mouth, anus, or gut, the 4-centimeter long worms survive by secreting an acid that breaks up the whale bone. Now, why do these even exist? I don't know. They utilize specialized root tissues for bone boring, and it is possible that multiple species of Ozdax reside in the same bone. Ozdax worms are also known to feed on the collagen itself by making holes in the whale's skeletal structure. These holes can also serve as a form of protection from nearby predators. Scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, using the submarine Rov Tiburn, first discovered the species in Monterey Bay, California in February 2002. The worms were found living on the bones of a decaying gray whale in the Monterey Canyon at a depth of 9,491 feet. Number 2. Deep-sea dragonfish. Deep-sea dragonfish are quite small, usually around 15 centimeters up to 26 centimeters. These fish are apex predators and have enormous jaws filled with fang-like teeth. In addition, they are also able to hinge their upper jaw system, which leads to them opening the jaw to more than 100 degrees, which is scary. This ability allows them to consume extremely large prey, often 50% greater than their standard length. The dragonfish can be found in all oceans, and they also exist at a wide range of depths between the surface and thousands of meters down, between 3,300 and 9,800 feet. It is one of the many species of deep-sea fish that can produce their own light through a chemical process known as bioluminescence. They cannot luminesce longer than 30 minutes without adrenaline, but in the presence of adrenaline, it can produce light for many hours. They produce blue-green light, the wavelengths of which can travel the farthest in the ocean. The deep-sea dragonfish waves its barbel back and forth and produces flashing lights on and off to attract prey and potential mates. Many of the species they prey upon also produce light themselves, which is why they have evolved to have black stomach walls to keep the light concealed while digesting their meal in order to stay hidden from predators. And coming in at number 1 is immortal jellyfish. The immortal jellyfish is a species of small biological immortal jellyfish found worldwide in tropic waters. Given the nickname immortal jellyfish for its ability to revert back to a polyp stage when it is starving or in danger and basically escaping death, researchers believe this jellyfish may hold the cure to cancer. Under normal conditions, its life cycle is divided into 4 parts. The union of the male and female gametes produces larva or planula. It then attaches to the seabed as a polyp similar to an anemone. The polyp then releases ephora or young jellyfish in the phase prior to sexual maturity. They become jellyfish, reproduce reproduce sexually and start over. But if they are stressed by an environmental threat, the jellyfish revert. After reproducing, they return to the previous phases, becoming polyps on the ocean floor again. As far as scientists know, jellyfish can repeat the process indefinitely. Thus, they are said to be biologically immortal. They can be eaten by a predator or fall into the hands of a swimmer, but they do not die of old age, which is pretty cool, but it's crazy that they can do this. Number 10. Giant oarfish. An oarfish really looks like a fish-snake hybrid, as it's a huge, greatly elonged fish. The giant oarfish is the longest bony fish alive, growing up to 36 feet in length. It is found in areas spanning from temperate ocean zones to tropical ones. But unfortunately, we know little about the oarfish because it lives deep underwater and it's rarely seen. However, we know it neither feeds on humans nor fishes, but on small marine creatures like crustaceans and krill. It was officially discovered in 1772, and in September 1996, the United States Navy SEALs found a giant oarfish that washed up on the shore near San Diego, California, and it was 23 feet long. The giant oarfish is by far the largest member of its fish family, at a published total length of 26 feet, with unconfirmed reports of 36 feet and 56 feet specimens and 600 pounds in weight. Now, even though those aren't confirmed, the 20-foot long one still scares me immensely. Number 9. Giant squid. So the kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size and is said to appear off the coast of Norway, but what if I told you it was real? A giant squid was found on a shore in Denmark in 1853. The giant squid is as elusive as the legend it inspired, as it lives so deep underwater that we have limited information about it. However, we know it has the largest eyes of all living creatures, grows up to 60 feet, and is frequently hunted by sperm whales for food. The weaker giant squid generally flees when confronted by a whale. However, it sometimes fights back when cornered, and it's not unusual to find sperm whales with scars left from their battles with giant squids. It wasn't until the turn of this century in 2001 that humans saw the giant squid for the first time, and only a few years after that it was finally photographed, making it one of the most elusive on the planet. The giant squid has long been known to exist, but capturing it on film has taken scientists extensive time and voyages to the deepest parts of the ocean where life is difficult to sustain. Number 8. Ribbon worm. Most ribbon worms are very slim, usually only a few millimeters wide, although a few have relatively short but wide bodies. Many have a pattern of yellow, orange, red, and green coloration, and they move slowly using their external cilia to glide on surfaces on a trail of slime, while larger species use muscular waves to crawl. Most of these worms burrow in sediments, lurk in crevices between shells, stones, or the holdfasts of algae or sessile animals. Others build semi-permanent burrows lined with mucus or produce cellophane-like tubes. Mainly in the tropics and subtropics, about 12 species appear in freshwater, and about a dozen species live on the land in cool, damp places, for example under rotting logs. Now these just sound disgusting to me, and I never want to get close to one. Number 7. Hagfish. With a name like that, I think you can expect this thing to be quite ugly. And it is. It actually makes me incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, just look at it. Ew, like how is that even real? Now, hagfish are eel-shaped, slime-producing marine fish, and they are the only known living animals that have a skull but no vertebral column, although hagfish do have rudimentary vertebrae. Hagfish are jawless, and living hagfish remain similar to hagfish from around 30 million years ago. There are estimated to be 76 species of hagfish, and some live as deep as 5,500 feet below the water's surface. They're also known as slime eels because of the goop their bodies produce to ward off predators. These animals can grow to be between 16 and 40 inches long, and some live as deep as 5,600 feet below the water's surface, and as long as they stay away from me though, that's all that matters. Number 6. Barreleye. The barreleye, also known as a spookfish, has extremely light-sensitive eyes on top of its fluid-filled head. The barreleye was first described in 1939, but remained a mystery to scientists until 2009, when they discovered that its large tubular eyes could actually rotate inside its head. This rotational ability allows them to look upward for potential prey or face forward to see what it is eating. Since barreleyes live at such depths where there is hardly any light, their tubular eyes help them see whatever faint amounts of light drift down to them. They also have 2 spots above their mouths which are called nars, similar to human nostrils. Now I understand why they're called spookfish though, because they do look look extremely spooky.
At our halfway point today, we have an underwater volcano threatening to split the Earth open. Light stuff, you know? While generally underwater volcanoes provide hydrogen, sulfide, and other minerals to deep sea life, allowing thriving ecosystems to form at unforgivable depths, one volcano in particular, located just off of the coast of Tonga, seems to be kind of doing the opposite. On January 15th of 2022, big year, the volcano exploded with a force equal to 15 million tons of TNT. The eruption was among the most powerful ever recorded, and it sent water vapor 83 miles up into the stratosphere, causing temporary rises to temperatures in the surrounding area. Not only that, but the eruption reshaped the sea floor. The rim around the volcano had been replaced by a cavern that travels down 850 meters into the Earth's crust. Hopefully it doesn't get any deeper, because if it does, kind of like your ex, we're gonna have some serious issues.
There's some pretty intriguing stories about possible alien bases underwater as well. Take the Solomon Islands, for example. There have been stories for hundreds of years about strange objects hovering above the islands and then descending down into the waters below. Locals on these islands also have stories about terrifying creatures stalking the forests, coming out of intricate cave systems underground, and this is just one example. There are said to be alien bases deep under the Alaska ice. Strange UFO-type objects have been spotted maneuvering through waters across the globe. We have a whole video on it. Top 10 mysterious UFOs discovered underwater. Check it out. So perhaps NASA already knows about alien life that's taken up residency here on Earth. Maybe the deep sea is their domain. I ain't saying this is what I believe. By the way, I'm just throwing some ideas at you.
Next on our list, we have NASA's discovery of a city of lights found in the middle of the ocean, in an area with no land or electricity. In 2012, a map of the Earth at night was published by the Earth Observatory in collaboration with NASA and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Everything seemed relatively normal except for one area off the coast of Argentina. You guessed it, a city of lights was shown on the map in a shape that almost resembles an arrowhead, or maybe like the Eiffel Tower. Anyways, it was weird, especially considering the fact that in the area in which the lights are shown, like I said, there's no land. I am repeating myself a lot today. NASA claimed that the lights were a result of fishing boats in the area, but I think it's pretty obvious that NASA is not to be trusted, as they do seem to have a pretty extensive history of secret keeping going on. Plus, the only images ever released of the area were those taken by a satellite at night. I have a feeling something else is going on, but let me know what you think. Do you believe the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, who I have not one, not two, but 3 videos on exposing leaked information they wanted to keep secret? I don't.
So it's not just undiscovered intelligent life forms deep sea divers have to worry about. It's all the primitive creatures as well, some known and some less known. Sure, there are wild stories about humanoid cephalopods attacking researchers down below or alien bases down there, but while those stories are fun, there is the actual very real possibility of running into something big that could pose a threat to the safety of the crew. Luckily, great whites don't really swim all that deep down, but there's other stuff going on down there. Giant squids are real, and who knows what else could be lurking down there. In the words of Qui-Gon Jinn, there's always a bigger fish. Wise words. You could have giant sea serpents, giant man-eating deep-sea piranhas that can see in the dark. Point is, space is dangerous, sure, but at least you don't have sentient life forms floating around the spacecraft on a constant basis.
And finally, we have the fact that in 2011, 87 World War II explosives made their way out of the ocean and on to Calshot Beach in England, surprising and terrifying locals and tourists alike. Although I'm not sure why you'd want a vacation on the beaches of England. Isn't the whole country's thing being really rainy? Anyways, the many explosive devices were managed by a 5-man bomb squad, which seems a little too relaxed if you ask me. 5 men, 87 bombs. Besides the point, an exclusion zone of 1,000 meters was set up around Calshot Beach to ensure the safety of civilians, while the devices were stacked 300 meters offshore during low tide. When high tide came, they were detonated. The bomb squad continued to comb the beach, the waters, the shores, and a little bit deeper, but luckily, I think no more were found. I think because if they weren't found and they're still there, that's pretty dangerous. If you think that's bad, allow me to remind you that to date, the United States alone has reported, keyword reported, 6 missing nuclear bombs that were lost to the ocean. NASA knows this. I mean, it's public information, so obviously, but I'm betting they probably know the real number too. So I guess it makes sense that they are doing their best to avoid the ocean and to get the heck off this planet as a whole. I mean, if you're gonna die by radiation, might as well do it with a good view of the cosmos, right?
Finally though, what about all the mysterious threats in the deep sea? Things that we just can't quite explain. All the triangles referring to strange sections of water where odd stuff seems to happen all the time. The Bermuda Triangle is of course the most well known, but there are others like the Lake Michigan Triangle, for example. Not that NASA would be exploring Lake Michigan. Places where disappearances seem to happen. Planes will disappear while flying overhead. Ships seem to have accidents or just vanish altogether. Some blame it on treacherous weather. Others think there could be some kind of strange electromagnetic interference in these areas that messes with equipment. These are just theories, of course, but there are so many mysterious incidents in the Bermuda Triangle alone. The disappearance of Flight 19 in 1945, the disappearances of the USS Cyclops in 1918. In 1948, Flight DC-3 went missing, never to be seen again. The Witchcraft vessel in 1967. The list goes on and on. The ocean is vast, mysterious, and dangerous. Most of it is still unexplored, yes, and it's not hard to see why.
Starting us off today, we have, of course, aliens. Now before you click away, let me explain. Our world was formed over the course of billions of years, during which time countless comets and asteroids continuously collided with our planet. Scientists at NASA believe that it is these comets that brought water to planet Earth and filled our oceans. Why do they think this? Well, because of chemical markers found in our oceans. The isotopic levels of our ocean water are incredibly similar to some of the oldest meteorites in the solar system, which would be virtually impossible unless it was ancient meteorites who delivered the water to our planet in the first place. Here's the thing though, when the asteroids crashed on Earth and subsequently created our oceans, the water inside would have been accompanied by organic materials. You see where I'm going with this. Organic materials that have been evolving for the past 3.8 billion years. While it is quite possible that humans are a result of this biological material, it's also possible that we're not the only result. And considering only 5% of our oceans have been explored, I'd say it's pretty possible and maybe even probable that some kind of other unfathomable creature lurks below the depths of the deep seas. Not only that, but each time a new asteroid hits our oceans, I feel like it brings forward a whole new possibility of evolutionary life.
What's the scariest, most mind-boggling thing in space? Well, to my knowledge, it would have to be black holes. Now, luckily, all of them are way too far away to pose any real threat to us here on Earth, or even for astronauts out in space for that matter, but the deep sea has its own kind of version of black holes. Eddies, and they are not too far away to pose significant threats. Eddies are basically circular currents, sort of like a whirlpool, that form within the larger ocean currents. Eddies can be small or big, and when I say big, I mean some of them can actually be seen from space, which is pretty scary. Now, there's not as much mystery surrounding eddies as there is with actual black holes, of course. It's pretty obvious where you'd end up if you were dragged into one of these things, but arguably it would be scarier as well, because with a black hole, it's like, well, who knows really what's in there? Could be good. Probably not, but there's a possibility. With eddies, I mean, you just drown. Drowning is probably one of the worst ways to die. And that's the other horrifying thing about these massive sized ones. Nothing can escape, just like with a black hole. Anything caught up just gets sucked in. And if you're thinking you can just wait it out, maybe you can, but some of these whirlpools can last for hours, days, and in some cases, there have been ones that have been circulating for years.
So if we go back to the reason for water on Earth and take a moment to seriously consider the fact that the organic material brought to Earth by the same same asteroids that brought us water have had 3.8 billion years to evolve, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's pretty likely that it did. And it evolved into something NASA has kept us in the complete dark about. There have been rumors going around that during the 2022 Orpheus expedition, in which a NASA submersible traveled down into the uncharted depths of our oceans, they found something that they don't want us to know about. I mean, makes sense. It's not like this would be the first time that NASA has tried to keep something from the public. The submersible was deployed to explore the Hadal zone, which is some 6,000 to 11,000 meters below sea level, and it includes the Mariana Trench. In fact, the Mariana Trench is just one of 30 subduction zones, or trench zones in simpler terms, that make up the Hadal. During NASA's 2022 mission, while exploring the depths under the guise of getting a better understanding of how to explore the moon's oceans, it is believed that they stumbled across something massive and never seen before. Underwater megafauna, massive animals, which was actually confirmed by an astronaut by the name of Garrett Reisman, who claims to have seen the eye of one of the creatures, and he described it as being as big as a flying saucer. Interesting analogy from a NASA astronaut.
Alright, expanding on Hannah's point a bit, some stories have been floating around about NASA coming across disturbing creatures deep in the ocean's depths. NASA has taken to exploring some of the deepest waters on Earth, the idea being that if they can learn more about the deep sea right here at home, they'll have a better understanding of what could be in deep sea environments on other planets. They also get a chance to test equipment in a similar environment to space. Now, NASA hasn't come out and said this on their own, but there have been some anonymous whistleblowers posting about experiences they've had on dives, with stories about running into dangerous creatures while on these deep sea explorations. Intelligent creatures resembling humanoid cephalopods who seem to intentionally sabotage equipment. Now, are these stories real, or are they just some internet fun? Well, about 80% of the ocean is unexplored, and seeing as it takes up about 70% of the planet overall, hey, I could see there being something down there other than dumb fish. Barracudas might not be as large as some of the other predators on this list, but they make up for it with lightning speed and sheer aggression. They're known for their fearsome, sharp teeth, and they're some of the fastest fish in the ocean, able to reach speeds of up to 36 miles per hour. Barracudas are solitary hunters, and they don't hesitate to attack when they see prey. They're often found in deeper waters, where their speed and stealth allows them to ambush fish and smaller marine creatures. Barracuda's sleek, streamlined body is built for these quick strikes, and when they attack, they're usually just this blur of motion. They've been known to target fish much larger than themselves too, and they can also pose a threat to humans, especially if they feel threatened or they get startled. The great white shark, they need no introduction. It's probably the most iconic and feared predator of the ocean. Growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 5,000 pounds, these sharks are apex predators. Very few creatures mess with them. They're built for the hunt, using their crazy speed, strength, and those razor-sharp teeth to take down their prey. When they strike, it's with terrifying power. Their bite is one of the strongest in the animal kingdom, strong enough to crush bone and tear through flesh like it's nothing. While great whites are often called man-eaters, they usually bite humans out of curiosity, not because they're looking for a meal. But people who are lucky enough to survive an encounter are usually left with missing limbs. Their massive size, their incredible power, their hunting skills, it makes them one of the most dangerous creatures in the ocean. Killer whales, or orcas, are not only some of the smartest predators in the ocean, they're also some of the most dangerous. They live in tight-knit groups or pods and work together to hunt all kinds of big prey. Sharks, seals, even other whales. One of the most impressive things they do is hunt great whites. Yes, I said great whites don't have many natural enemies. Killer whales are one of them. Orcas will attack them by flipping them over, which puts the shark into a state of paralysis. Then they'll just go for the liver. Orcas are also great at hunting in deeper water, using echolocation to find their prey and communicate with each other to pull off some very impressive coordination
coordinated attacks. There are many different species of box jellyfish, and some of them are among the most venomous creatures in the world. They're mostly found off the coast of Australia and Southeast Asia, and their sting is so powerful it can cause heart failure in humans. Their tentacles have toxins capable of paralyzing or even killing their prey, which includes fish, crustaceans, and small marine mammals. The venom is so powerful, it only takes a brief encounter with one to be lethal. And to make things even worse, their bodies are nearly transparent, making them incredibly hard to spot in the water. If you're not careful, you may not be able to spot one before it's too late. The anglerfish is probably one of the most unsettling creatures you'll find in the deep sea. This fish is known for its horrifying appearance, with a very grotesque face, sharp teeth, and huge mouths that kinda look too big for their bodies, and that eerie bioluminescent lure that hangs in front of their heads like a fishing line. They use it to draw in prey from the pitch black depths of the ocean, tricking unsuspecting creatures into getting close enough for the anglerfish to grab them with its huge mouth. These fish can live in waters more than 2,000 feet deep, where food is hard to come by, so their hunting method is pretty genius. Instead of chasing down their meals or using strength to catch their prey, anglerfish just wait for food to come to them. Some anglerfish species are so adapted to their environment that they don't even see at all. Instead, they rely purely on their ability to sense movement and detect the faintest ripples in the water. When they do catch something, they do not hesitate to use their gnarly, needle-like teeth to trap their prey, making them one of the most terrifying hunters of the deep sea.